the series of.
There you go.
This is the first in a series of SKB, Susan K. Black Foundation Zoom calls on what makes this good art. And the whole idea behind this is to have professionals and people of all levels talk about art and what makes it good and what we can do to make our own art good. In this series tonight, we're going to be talking about movie art, the art that draws you into the movie and how it does it and why it's doing it. Now, movie posters have been around since the 1870s, late 1800s, starting in Paris. And each decade they evolved into more complex ideas and methods of creating these movie posters. The 30s was famous for Art Deco. The 60s had the teen idols and the wonderful colors and beach movies. And the 80s started to bring in the photographs as opposed to the airbrush and physically painted movie posters. And some of the artists that we know today for their Western themes and landscapes started out as illustrators in the movie poster business. Howard Terperding and Frank McCarthy, for example, were very well-known movie poster guys, and we'll be talking about them in a bit. So sit back, enjoy the presentation. One of the cool things that we're doing with this is Steve is our expert on Photoshop, so he can bring into Photoshop the different posters we're talking about and manipulate them and move them and see how we can make it better or just why we like it. So this is what makes art good. All right, Steve, you're on.
Cool. All right, so we're going to start with circus.
Oh, okay.
Before movie posters or movies, there was circus. And Susie, she found that it was a lot of famous painters who worked on circus posters. And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead and finish.
Well, I was just going to let you tell some of the names.
Okay. Well, circus art have been around since the early 1800s. When the circus began, because they were trying to create ways to bring people in to see the circus. And they call them circus arts, and it includes paintings and drawings and designs. And under that umbrella of circus art, they also include costuming and tent making. So you could be an artist painting the circus poster, and you could be an artist making a tent or a costume. So the first movie or the first circus posters were hand drawn and painted by some of the first, some world famous artists such as Marc Chagall. There's an English lady called Dame Laura Knight. Dame is the equivalent for females as a sir. And Surratt, Maxfield Parrish, Dali, and Picasso were also known to do some of the different circus arts. So what Steve's got here are two unique posters. And we're finding with a lot of these, they're using the same colors over and over, the reds and the yellows, which get your attention. And on this Ringling Brothers, who's here in Sarasota, the red and the green is great on that poster.
Now, a lot of what you're going to see in most of these posters, for people that aren't familiar with illustration terminology, most of these are called montages. Okay, so it's a montage of a bunch of images and it's all put together, and they try to tell as many stories within. I mean, you can see they got horses, and this is just one on horses. They would do another one on elephants and another one on clowns and another one. So this Ringling Brothers would have maybe 10 different posters that they would put out all over the town to get people to come and see the circus. So if we use the term montage, then you'll know. I had a hard time remembering what it was last night. I haven't been doing illustration in a while, so.
Yeah.
And the next step is into really the movie poster bit. And you see, these were all painted. You know, this isn't photographs. These are painted. They had artists, and we don't know the artists that had done these, but. And these are two different posters for the same movie. Now, they might have moved to different places. Okay, so that maybe they would have a different poster in a different town. There might have been 6 or 7 of these posters.
All done by different
artists.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. But you can see the quality of art on a movie poster. These depictions of these of Charlie Chaplin, you know who that is. So even though they didn't have the photographs, then fabulous artists were doing these movie posters.
This one's a little bit more graphic in the composition and the way it's put together. And they would use multi colors in these printing processes to get these posters. And a lot of the posters, I think more so today, the size was, what was it again, Susie?
41 by 27.
Yeah, so they were pretty good, big size. Now, I don't know as far how big these were back then. They might have been even bigger.
Well, they needed to create the attention to get people into the movies, and this certainly did. This is a romantic one, and it's tells a story. And that's what we're doing in our art, is we're trying to tell stories. So hopefully this will help us make our art better.
This here again, 2 different, and I looked, these Metropolis, there were tons of Metropolis posters, different posters, done by different artists again.
And very, very Art Deco.
Oh yeah.
So, and the one on the left, I love it because it's just 2 colors and it's very, very powerful. And everything is pointing down to the head. So the buildings are pointing down, the lights are pointing down. So you know the point of this story, and they're using things to create that tangent down to the head down there. Maria wants to know if the lettering was done by hand. I would certainly think this was, wouldn't you, Steve?
Yeah, a lot of times they would, or this one definitely. I think both of these were created by hand.
Yeah.
Now later on, a lot of times they'll, it would have been done within the separations, different because they would have different colors. We'll show some of them.
Yeah.
We're moving probably from, this was probably the 20s.
20s or 30s.
Yeah, and we'll move into the 40s. Now, this is what Susie was talking about, Howard Turpinning. We all know him today for doing these Native American Plains Indian paintings, that go for $1 million, $1.2 million. But he did this poster. He created this poster back in the late 30s, probably 39, maybe 38.
Yeah, I think it was 1940.
The movie came out in 40, so
Okay.
he would have had his work on it earlier. But again, you see, that montage bit that they work in, so that they can tell more than like Susie had said last night. This, just the top part would make a great painting. Exactly,
and the light against the dark, the lightest light against the darkest dark, or the yellow against their faces and hair. It just brings your attention to the two of them looking at each other. And that's what we want to achieve in our paintings, is to see that subject matter right away. And these are designed to want us to go see these movies.
Now, this would not have been one whole piece of art we talked about last night, because you have a painting here and a painting over here. and then you have this one here. And so it was basically composed in the separation production. And again, also with the type now, they moved the type into, you know, being the typesetters would set the type up.
Mhm. But you can see the quality of art that Howard does, and the movie posters. I mean, they're totally different, but wow, you know, they're just totally incredible, totally incredible.
Here's a couple more that he had done. Again, with the red and the yellow, really pops it right out. You won't miss this when you're driving by.
And look at the composition. It's not dead center. It is over to the left, with three people looking in three different directions. And again, it makes it more interesting. What are they talking about? What are they about to do? You know, oh, I've got to go see this movie. So again, the yellow and the red draws your attention, right?
I like how her name's in yellow also.
Yes. Yeah. And the blue and the red, which also stands out. Yeah. You guys can add anything you want anytime, and or make comments. I think there's a type box that you can type questions into. Go ahead, Steve.
This is another turpinning. Again, this not so many different images. It's pretty much two, but you get the excitement of going to see this movie. This probably only took about maybe a total of, I don't know, 10 minutes in the movie, but you would think the whole movie was about, you know, oil rigs blowing up.
And again, look at the composition and design.
Yeah.
Everything points to the subject, which are the two people in the foreground. And
Go to the title of the movie. I didn't notice that before. That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't notice that either.
It's funny though. It's like you would expect to be it's the blood coming down instead of the black coming down.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, a little violence there, or a lot more violence.
And look at how accurate the guns are. You know, they really had to know their subjects, not only just how to draw people, but how to draw guns and you know.
Well, a lot of these, okay, what they would work from is the stills that were taken during the filming. There are tons of stills of movies, and that's basically what they worked off of. So there was one of these guys running up this hill, and they would use that as their reference, you know, and then these two, and I mean, I guess we're pretty safe. I mean, it doesn't look like Baldwin at all, so you know, not into shooting anybody.
No. That's funny.
Now this next one, this was an interesting one. It was there's a famous artist school, and you can see right there is Norman Rockwell. And I don't know whether all these guys were commissioned to do this paintings. This was from the movie Samson and Delilah. But they all these artists, and these were the instructors at the artist school, and they all, you know, did a different representation of parts of the movie. Some a little different than others. And I've got the Norman Rockwell one. You can see how big it is here.
Yeah, and all different styles.
This is the school. So
yeah.
I know there's probably a bunch of you that have looked through magazines back in the old time days and have seen this. These are the guys right here, down here in the bottom. Those are all those guys that are in there in this picture.
That's cool.
Yeah, I went and hunted this down today. In fact,
Yeah.
I had done this when I was, well, how old was I? Maybe 11. And I drew, I think it was a pirate. And you draw the pirate, and then they send you, say, yeah, come sign up for the school. I mean, it was pretty good pirate. It looked just like the one that they sent out. So, but yeah, but we were moved to Florida, so I never really did it.
Yeah, I did that as well, but it was more expensive than we could afford. So.
Oh yeah. But the big boon was my uncle. He did this course back in the 50s. So he did the course with these guys, and I
Yeah.
have his 4 volumes
Wow.
of the course. And we're talking big books.
Yeah, I've got one of them here.
Oh, okay.
Want to see it? I'll pull it out.
Maybe, hey, Anthony, can you make her bigger?
Not with you canceling, so no.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but you can see how thick it is and how big this this book is. So this is one of the famous artists courses, and all the things that you had to go through. So it's, I think you can still pick them up here and there, like on eBay or something. So it's worth getting them just to see the fantastic.
Oh, yeah, I lived with,
that's-
I mean, I was a kid and I was just stuck in this
Fascinating.
book all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, that was the course. And then this was
And
Rockwell Sayers.
look at the faculty on that.
Yes, isn't
The
that
what?
amazing? There,
Look
Oh,
at the
yeah.
faculty.
Yeah. Yeah, they were the guys. Al
Yeah.
Parker, Ben Saul,
just amazing, just
Yeah.
amazing.
they all did different parts of different courses. Yeah, that's Norman Rockwell's version. Not a lot of color, but
Can
that's
you
again, that's the big moment in the movie.
can you make it lighter? Can you manipulate it a little bit so we can see the figure a little bit more?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can. What I'll do is I'll put it in shadow highlight.
There we go.
There you go.
There.
No, hard because that's the way he made it, that dark.
Yes. Yeah. Now, this is one of the fun things that Steve does for us. He's a master at Photoshop, so he can manipulate these images, and we can change colors and move things around, and now you can see the figure a little bit better, even though Rockwell wanted it dark like that. But this also will help you when you're doing your artwork, is to put it into Photoshop and manipulate it around and see what works and what doesn't.
Is that yours?
Those are mine.
So,
Devil's off.
so one of the things that I try to tell people, a lot of times your photos will be washed out. They'll have this washed out look in the white areas. And if you do have Photoshop, this shadow highlight is a great tool. Okay, so that's normal. That would be a normal. And then if you move the highlight part, which is kind of stupid because it really is the shadow part, you can see on his chest how much darker it makes it. So if that was snow, you could pull out all of the shadows and darker areas in the snow. And this, you could do the same thing in the shadows in a photo. Most photos you take will have like a dark green in the trees or dark blue. And you literally take the top thing and just run this, and you'll find stuff within the darks that you didn't know were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Now these, we didn't do this last night, but I looked for some other posters. These are from the 50s. And again, they're all are drawn, they're painted, they're all illustrated. There's no
Right.
photograph.
Isn't that amazing? Look,
And I'm surprised at this one. It almost has an airbrush look. And I don't know how far back airbrush goes. David probably knows because he was around then.
oh, Marilyn Monroe. And again, look at the colors that they concentrate on, the reds and the yellows, that really bring your attention to what they're trying to show you. Get your
What's so
attention.
funny is I first saw this one and it's French. This is the what is it? The
Something like it hot.
Asphalt Jungle,
Ah,
or the Jungle de Asphalt, though.
well,
The Asphalt Jungle, and this version in French was better than the American version. To me, anyway, design wise.
Yeah.
It just looked better.
we can all learn a lot from illustrators because they have just a little bit of time and energy to create the information that they want to grab your attention with. They know composition, they know values, they know light. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, everything's got to sell in their world. You know, it's part of
Yeah.
selling.
Yeah.
This was a guy who crossed many different years and decades of painting. So the one on the pink one, that was done in the early 60s, along with the one in the middle. But it's the same guy, Bob Peak, and he does different techniques, you know, for each one of these. Anthony doesn't like me doing this, but.
Not, well, you were going a little too far last time. It's okay.
You can see all the work and effort in the paintings that they did with this. Again, because they're illustrators, they knew how to grab your attention, and they knew the human form, and they knew what to do to give you the idea of Camelot or My Fair Lady. It's just amazing. And talk about the last one, Steve.
Yeah, now this one is this is airbrush. This is airbrush and probably colored pencil. Probably a bit of paint there, but he switched from doing paintings to airbrush. And this was done in the late 70s.
Airbrush really got big in 1930s, and it was the artist Vargas really was the one who Vargas really pioneered it.
He didn't have to worry about too many clothes on his.
But a lot of those early illustrators used to use the airbrush early as they were developing the painting, and then they build on top of it.
Now, a lot of these illustrators also, and a few of you might remember this particular magazine. These are two that he did for this particular magazine. And I used to collect these.
So did I. I just thought they were great.
Yeah, you know, as a guy just out of college, an illustrator, I always wanted to be on, you know, have one of my pieces in a TV guide. I mean, it's what you, try to be a big boon, but he did quite a few of these. Again, as an illustrator, that part of the job. Now, Bob Peak, he was at I went to a artist, what did they call them back then? Illustrators Workshop, and it was held in Columbus, Ohio. And he was there with a bunch of the top name illustrators of the day. And back then he probably did, I think he did maybe 3 or 4 posters for that particular movie, different. And he got paid $50,000 for them, for each one. So you really wanted to be a painter of movie posters.
Movie posters, yeah. Can you imagine that? $50,000?
Yeah, this was back in the late 70s,
Can you
80s.
imagine how much that would be worth now?
This guy, Robert McGinnis, big time book cover artist. I mean, he spent most of his time, but he did do some movie posters.
Well, I can kind of see the book, especially in the Live and Let Die one. That's very typical of a book cover. So I can see, you know, how he did that. But again, very graphic.
This model right here, her real name is Sheer Height, and she became a book writer in New York. But what he would do, Robert McGinnis, he lived in Connecticut, and they would go to New York at the studios where the models would be, and they would paint and draw the models, and he would take photos of them. And she became his probably, he used her for the most in his books, and not so much movie posters. He didn't do all that many, but definitely in the books. She was his favorite model.
I wonder if the title Lover on the top has anything to do with reality. reality.
Yeah, it could be.
the
Could be.
thought.
You never know. I was surprised. I looked this up. I was surprised that he did this. You know, and this is now where they do, you know, Photoshop and digital art, but he painted that. You know,
Wow.
he's still working. I mean, 90 something, he's still doing it.
That's great. That's great.
And again, that's a huge montage right there. I mean, you got so many elements, but yeah, I mean, this makes you want to go see that movie.
Yeah.
You're not going to be bored. This one over here, you might be bored, but you know, or you might like cats.
But it gets across the idea.
Yeah.
Tiffany's, you know, it instantly recognizable.
This next guy, Richard Amsel, he did quite a few posters. He did the first Indiana Jones poster. In fact, he did two for Indiana Jones, two different posters. And there's an illustrator way back in the 20s and 30s called J.C. Leyendecker. And he fashioned the whole image here after J.C. Leyendecker's technique, because that was done back in the 30s and 40s. That's when he lived. So J.C. Leyendecker would do the arrow shirt man. And this was the technique he had, these sharp edges and corners, and then these shadow like dot lines.
Mhm.
So basically, I don't know if he chose to do this himself or it was suggested to him to do that, to give it that J.C. Leyendecker look.
And didn't he do Saturday Evening Post? Was that the covers that he did?
Oh yeah. J.C. Leyendecker, yeah, he did Saturday Evening Post, and along with Norman Rockwell, they both did it about the same time. J.C. had a brother who was an artist too. Yeah, I'll show you another artist later. Richard Amsel tends to be a little bit more, how would you say, not exacting to the look of the person. He stylizes them a little. Here's some TV guide, and he did a ton of these. Here's some TV guide covers that he did.
They're very stylized, aren't they?
Yeah,
Miami Vice. Oh, Steve, isn't that what you wear every day down in the?
Oh yeah. I used to have my white baggies. Oh yeah. Yeah, I didn't carry a gun, but yeah. But yeah, these are just some of the many. You go on to Pinterest and you put in his name, and there's tons of these that he's done.
Very, very stylized. Now, yes, and he did sign these. You can see behind Johnny Carson's head and Don Johnson's shoulder. He did, there we go. He did sign them, so that's cool. A lot of these I would think were pay for work, and they weren't allowed to collect the copyrights and things, but it looks like he was able to do that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, when you're the guy to go to. Now, the next guy is the guy that pretty much took over for him as far as movie posters go. Drew Struzan. This guy is the guy. He's the poster. I mean, these are all big, giant money-making movies. He got in with Steven Spielberg and never looked back.
Nor should he.
Yeah, nor should he. Yeah. And was Lucas doing some of these? Or?
Oh yeah, all the but being in with that group, but it's basically the Spielberg, part of it.
Yeah. Now, are these airbrush, Steve, or are these?
No, what he would do is, and I'll show you some of the technique that he would do. He would airbrush, he would airbrush like the background part. Here, let me show you some of them a little closer. He did all these. These are the other Indiana Jones, and he did these. So he would airbrush in here, and then he would come in with colored pencil and do all the detail work in colored pencil. Right, Chris Rollins?
Yeah, I muted me so you wouldn't hear noises. Yeah, you and I talked about that the other Tuesday night. Yeah, that was awesome.
I mean, even chest hair.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And again, the montage with
Yep.
the different subjects in it.
But these were all done as illustrations. Back then, no, this one might have some Photoshop to it, only because it was done, maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago or more.
Yeah,
And it just has a feel of some airbrush, some Photoshop.
photos. Yeah.
If he was doing airbrush and color pencil, would he do like a Bristol board type? Do you know what he
Oh,
would?
you could see the texture here. He might have gessoed this part right here.
Yeah, well, that's what I was wondering. Would it be, so you can use color pencil on like a gessoed?
Oh, yeah. Sure, yeah.
Huh.
I do it. You take a illustration board and gesso it and go to town with colored pencil. I've done that quite a bit.
How do you get a smooth technique with it then?
You don't need a smooth technique. That's what you want on the canvas illustration board. You get a finer weave canvas.
Right.
I could show you
Or-
some that I've
yeah.
done
Okay.
some of the time that I've done with color pencil and
Now
just-
he would draw it first and then airbrush it and then go back in and do colored pencil again. Is that
yeah, I'll
correct?
show you. Here's a
Here we go.
indication of it. So he did this basic black and white layout, then started airbrushing, and he would go and do color pencil and then throw some more airbrush in. And then airbrush, it's just inks. It's just ink.
So when you're doing the airbrush, so when he's doing this, his pencil, it still comes through. So it doesn't completely block out the pencil.
Yeah,
It
it's
just-
it's not opaque. It's translucent.
Huh.
And here's where he's working the pencil in.
Huh, that's
After
cool.
After he's done the airbrushing. Isn't that cool?
That's really
Yeah, and he'll
cool.
go back and forth. You could do some airbrush over the pencil too. I mean, it's ink, but that's pretty wild.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And again, that was all done in these.
right.
Just different colors.
Again, look at the colors, the reds and the yellows and the cool blues in the foreground.
All right. So as far as actual painting goes, to do illustrations for movie posters, I think has gone by the wayside. And now it's more digital. It's more Photoshop and digital imagery because we have that tool. I mean, I use it all the time. I still illustrate and then we'll work on it in Photoshop, but a lot of these are just straight out photos that have been manipulated.
Right. And added the backgrounds and different layers and montages and the bat in the background in the light. It's very clever on the Batman
Yeah.
image.
I mean, that looks like it was painted. It might have been. I tried to research it today and I couldn't find any information on it. It's like a well-kept secret.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it looks like it was painted.
Is that a problem though, that it gets to the point where you can't tell whether it's painted or a photograph?
No,
that
all it
takes
does
away
is
from
it
the
puts-
artist.
it puts illustrators that paint out of business.
right.
So that's what I mean. So it does put illustrators out of business because
Well, unless they
do
moved
this.
into doing Photoshop, which a lot of
Yeah.
them have, just like the illustrators moved into doing Western paintings,
And look at the Disney dudes. They stopped doing the cells and went totally computer graphics. And
Yeah.
Disney lost that art of hand-drawn images, and a lot of those guys went from being a Disney dude to a fine artist because they had the skills. But
Yeah.
um,
Well, that's what because Mark Henn
right,
wanted to, he always liked it being the illustration and the cartoon. as opposed to the digital.
Right, same with Aaron Blaze,
Yeah.
Bill Silvers, and a few others, yeah.
Yeah, they don't make as many buggy whips anymore either, you know?
Talk about the skin on the avatar, Steve.
Yeah, okay, so what I did was I've got the other version, because
Okay.
this one is a little bit, because I made it smaller, so I have the bigger detail version.
Okay. Ah,
Now this image, okay, and I'm guessing this because there really isn't any actors that are dressed up like this. This is all CGI stuff. So this is all created digitally for the movie. So these people don't really exist as actors because of the way they created them. Now they might have taken them and put, you know, their put them in the clothes and did the skin, but I mean, you can see here the pores in the skin, you know, and if it's done digitally, that's just amazing.
yeah.
But they can do that. Now, I think these guys are real, and these guys are the CGI people. You can see they look different.
And you were talking about one of the guys making a brush to create.
Yeah,
this-
John said that, yeah, they create brushes that will do pores, you know, for Photoshop. But these CGI guys, they're just incredible. I mean, look at, I mean, you can paint all that, but you don't really have to anymore.
I want to.
But I mean, look at the hair,
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
the Rastaman.
Now my question, and this, I guess this goes off, and I'm sorry if it does, off the posters. In the future, how is that going to affect artists? Like Susie said, you know, I like to do that, you know, and I agree, because I like the detail. I like to do that. And where's that going to leave people in the future where they could do this with wildlife art?
Well, if I was you, I'd be worried about the AI stuff, tell you the truth. Because it's just so you could take an artist, all the work he's ever done, and create a piece of art that looks just like he did it.
Mhm.
The AI stuff is just ridiculous. And all it is it's just they have a
Different tool.
yeah. And you know, again, it'll disappear, but like John Phelps says, these don't exist, you know, there's no actual painting.
There's
Yeah.
no original. They're all copies, and
Yeah.
people want original art, and they'll pay for original art. So artists will never go out of business because we have skills and you know, beautiful creations that people want to hang on the wall that nobody else has.
Mhm.
So there will always be a place for artists, even with the CGI stuff.
Mhm.
Some people don't like that. You know, maybe if you're 18 or 25, you love this, but 18 or 25-year-olds aren't buying art
No.
necessarily. So
There was a news story today that came across on CNN that some lady had written a story and illustrated with AI artwork, and she
Mhm.
got it all copyrighted through the US patent offices.
Uh-huh.
And they rejected her patent and made her resubmitted it, that all the writing was copyrighted, but the AI was not. You cannot copyright it.
right, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect. So anybody can steal that image
So
or do whatever they want with it. That's
Now,
really
along your lines that you were talking about, Chris, these are all, well, I know these two are. I don't know so much about this, but these are actually pieces of art. They're not composed. He
Well,
composed them when
they
when
look
he illustrated.
different. Yeah, they look different. The other one, like you said, the third one, the Crystal Skull, looks like it could have more of a photographic effect. The other two look more like a piece of art
Mhm.
to me. And this one looks like, you know, not slapped on, but a photographic
Montage.
Yeah.
Mhm. Exactly.
Now, here are Susie found some.
That movie, I saw that movie when my idiot parents let my idiot cousin, who was 20-some, take me when I was 10 years old.
Oh,
I
no.
saw that movie 3 times to back because he liked the music. I still, kid you not, people, I still cannot be in a house alone because if there's a window, all I can see is her glowing eyes and her flipping her head.
I'll bet you don't eat pea
It's
soup.
terrible. It
Well-
traumatized me. When I close our nature center in the winter time and it's dark out and nobody's there and we have all these windows, I have to call Angela and I have to have her on the phone while I'm closing everything up until I get in my car. Yeah, this movie.
Well, the reason I pulled this one up is it's very graphic. It is black and white,
The
basically.
movie.
And we decided that this was an illustration. It was actually painted because it's
Oh,
not
really?
quite in, look at the windows.
I always thought this was a photograph. Wow.
See how they're not perfectly lined up.
Yeah.
Where in a photograph it would
Yeah.
be. So
Sure. Thanks for this, Susie.
it just tells you, it brings your attention dark against light again.
Yeah.
The darkest dark against the lightest light. It's just so graphic and so powerful. I just love the image, and you can do this in your own paintings. Have it dark on the top and have the light highlighting whatever it is, the bear, the cub, the mongoose, whatever it is. This is an idea to think of when you're doing your own paintings.
The little girl that lives in the basement,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you.
There's something wrong with all of us. And of course, this is my favorite
There you go.
because,
Yeah.
because of all the past diving I used to do. This is so graphic and it scared so many people. My sister wouldn't take a bath because she was afraid the sharks were going to be in the bathtub. I mean, it's so graphic. And Steve and I were talking about this. It's not a great white, it's a Mako. And the eyes aren't quite right, but they used artistic license to make this thing scary. And sharks don't have bubbles coming out of them either. They're
Yeah.
but this tells you right away what the movie is, and everybody remembers it.
Mm-hmm.
Another Spielberg.
And again, up illustrated, painted.
Yep. Mhm. And look at the composition. Look at where the horizon
It all
is.
points you up.
All up. Exactly.
You
Exactly.
can't get
Don't
much.
forget to
simpler
talk
than
about the
this.
shark.
We did.
Okay.
Well, and the teeth aren't accurate either, but they used artistic license to create that terror that you would have if you were swimming. And as John Phelps says, no matter where you are in the water, there's always a shark behind you.
Yeah.
Might be 100 miles away, but there's always a shark behind you.
Yeah, it's in your sister's tub.
Yeah.
This one, yeah. You guys won't be able to sleep tonight.
The
No.
graphics, the yellow and the reds, and just that hint of light on the face. Can you imagine doing that with an eagle or a mountain lion or something like that? It just is so graphic and so powerful.
Now, is this painted?
Yeah, we pretty much surmise that it's probably painted. Now
Okay.
it could be a photograph, but it would have been retouched to get that. That'd be almost impossible to get that dark and that light
That light, yeah.
and it balance.
That
There are
light.
people that paint it, but you'll never have that darkness with it.
Yeah. So this light up at the top, that's not a pure white. They put a little bit of yellow in
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so there's
Either that
no,
or he's blonde, you know.
well, and this is what I mean, when I, as before I met you guys, I would have always thought to make the brightest bright, you just put white.
No.
But you guys had sort of told me, and we've talked in the past, that you put a little bit of yellow to really create, and so this has yellows in it.
The yellows and the reds, I mean, the two next to
Yeah.
each other just make your eye go right to those areas,
Oh, yeah.
and then down to the light on the face. It's just, it's a masterpiece. Scary, but it's still a masterpiece. Look at the eyes.
So Anthony.
Yeah,
Hey,
thanks,
Stephen.
thank- yeah, there
Hey,
you go.
Steven, 2017, that movie, that could be Photoshop.
It could be.
Yeah, but getting that light like that rim light is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
It might have been photoshopped and then painted or touched up or something.
Now, when you say photoshopped and then painted, Susie, do you literally, I mean, are you just, I know they have the brushwork and all that stuff. So you would, if they did that, they would take the photograph and they would create painting over the photograph?
No, there's a lot of ways of doing it.
And would
Yeah.
this be like when you talked, Stephen, about how you did the Salt Life stuff, where they'd have layers and layers and layers?
In Photoshop, yeah,
Okay.
could be. It could be.
Sorry, it's all primary to me, as far as, I'm in kindergarten for this.
We all are, so don't worry. This stuff is incredible to me. And again, the
Obviously, a photograph.
yellow and the red, very graphic with the jagged line going right down to the girl. It's just very, very classic movie poster. Get your
And it
attention.
points to her.
Yes, exactly. And you can do this in your paintings using shadows, using trees, using elements to draw your attention to the subject matter. So we can easily convert movie posters and illustrations into our own paintings to make them better. That's what makes art good.
Okay, so you end up coming here, but what she does is she takes you down here so that you look at what she has here. You could do the same thing with any kind of animal, really.
Yeah.
That just make you come to where all her toys are.
And that's use of light. Her hand is lighter than her face is.
Mhm.
So you go to the face and then you go to the hand.
Mhm. Yeah.
And this is my favorite. It's just so elegant and so quiet and so powerful with the American flag and our soldier. And the grayish background. It's just, to me, a graphic winner. This is
Yep.
just.
And you got the hots for Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
My friend, my buddy, Kevin Lacey, was the consultant to teach Bradley Cooper how to be. This is where you and I talked, Susie. He was in the platoon with Chris, and so he went to teach Bradley and them how to be a SEAL. But yeah, that's awesome. That's a wonderful one.
And it doesn't, there's not a lot of writing on it. It's just a man and a flag, and how powerful that
And there's
is.
not a lot of bright and dark. It's more muted.
And the flags are always great about bringing you back into
Into it, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Even though he's dead center, it works.
Is this a photograph or is this?
No, it's a photograph, yeah.
It is a photograph.
Oh, yeah.
Did
fact,
they
I don't even-
Photoshop
you
and
know, they-
change it with?
It's just a photograph, and they took another photograph of this flag and just superimposed it over the top. And clouds behind, yeah, it's just simple, really. Put some smoke down at the bottom. Yep. The
So
magic
think
of
about these
Photoshop.
things in your designs.
We talked about this last
Good.
week.
Thank you for putting that one in, Anthony.
That's the first movie my wife and that was our first date, our first official date.
We were talking about this last night, and I said, "Oh, Steve, can you move the bicycle over to the right a little bit?" And Anthony says, "Oh, I've already got it. I've already got it." So, see, I would have put, as in the second one, I would have put the bicycle in that power position because it's more pleasing to me than the first one. But Steve, talk about how we did this with the negatives.
Well, again, Photoshop, and even back then it was probably, but he could have done it. Anthony really was the one that talked about the negative, putting that compose. Back in the day, you would compose it with a sandwich negative.
Yeah,
Right,
you
Anthony?
sandwich two negatives together to make one photograph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they might have had to do that back then because again, this is like 1980.
Right.
Not
Right.
that they didn't have computers around, but Photoshop, I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is old school. But
Right.
they sandwiched a bunch of photos together. Too.
1982, you didn't have Photoshop.
No.
That's true.
If I might just butt in, when did Ansel Adams pass away? Because Ansel Adams saw a very early version of Photoshop in action and he loved it. So if you can pin that date down, that'll tell you when Photoshop came out.
Working on it.
Yeah. People doing research.
84.
Okay. But I don't think they were using that. And
Okay,
again,
now we went through this one last night. This is really simple art. And Susie and I had the same problem with it. Anthony said that, or John said, where's the ocean? And obviously it's over this way somewhere, or they're surfing in the desert.
yeah. And
But
I would,
the solution that we came up with, or at least talked about, was that.
there you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
how much different it made. Just what you had is you had a line running through the painting, so to speak. Okay. Just by raising that guy up, it stops you from going right through the painting.
And it breaks that tangent, makes it more interesting again.
Yep.
Mhm.
So think about tangents and horizon.
Now, whenever you have a horizon, always pull something above it.
of it.
And,
Interesting,
just-
that was 1966 and the shadow's going the wrong way, or two different ways.
You're right. I didn't notice that. That's very good. Well, are
Somebody
you
painted it, but the shadow's going the wrong way.
Yeah. That's very true.
Like, come on, dude. I mean, it's just a poster, man. Come on, dude.
Good spot, Anthony. I never even thought about that. That is
That
right.
being so serious,
But it's the colors that tells you it's 1960s. That's
Oh yeah.
definitely an
Like it
illustration.
was, looks like it was silk screened.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Four
This
colors.
one was definitely airbrushed.
Yeah.
Airbrush. The best friend to an airbrush artist is called a colored pencil.
Really?
Well, because when I was in school, we had to do airbrush. Okay, you had to do the whole thing in airbrush, and then you just get almost done with it, and you get that little spit, and it's like, no, got to start all over again. So that's what colored pencils were for, fixing the spit.
What's I mean, like,
Yeah, the airbrush would send out a clog of paint or a drip of paint, and then
how would the colored pencil fix it?
because you take that colored pencil color and you just go over that little spit and fix it. Teacher knew, but again, I mean, probably a lot of airbrush in this.
Yeah, I would think.
I forgot the Philip Castle one, huh? Now, this is just giving an indication of all the different Pirates of the Caribbean posters
Yeah.
that were done for each one of the movies. Now, this is just the ones like this. There must have been maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 different versions of posters that they did for it.
Yeah. And these all look like they're Photoshopped.
Yeah, they're all Photoshop.
So they're photographs that are Photoshop, not
Yeah.
illustrations.
Yeah, there's no illustration. Photoshop illustration.
Right.
With the bottoms, with the Kraken and all the stuff, would those be illustrations that were Photoshopped, or were those all like CGI type things?
No, these are probably just photos that they went in and did stuff with.
Yeah.
I mean, that probably is a scene from the film, and they just took it and made it red.
Yeah.
You know, made this one green.
Yeah.
Blue,
Yellow.
really blue. But again, it's just how many different versions of same theme, and then they would do different person. Some send this over to France, and they would be in charge of doing their own poster
Exactly.
under rules. This is another one,
Oh,
obviously.
yeah. That's obviously a photograph, though.
Yep.
That's cool. That's cool.
Well, you know, just like with magazines way back in the day, all the magazines were using illustrations for their covers. Well, what came back, like the 40s and 50s, they started using photographs.
Right.
Or they would use retouched photographs of like
Yeah.
Hollywood stars and stuff.
Yeah. Very interesting. I love the horizon on this, and it's just very powerful. Again, light and dark, light and dark.
These are definitely Photoshop world here. Those
Oh,
flames,
yeah.
those smoke.
Oh yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I didn't notice that before. Yeah.
But again, there's a different version of this where it's more of a taller poster.
Mhm.
You don't see that shaped poster very often.
No, you don't.
And then this is one of our personal connected.
Favorites, yes. Wow. Steve, tell the story on this one.
I don't want
For those of you that don't know, John Phelps's son is Chance in this movie. If you get an opportunity, watch this movie. It is absolutely incredible.
And bring your hankies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
John Phelps's son dies in Afghanistan, I believe, and Kevin Bacon brings him home, and it's the whole movie about the respect and the way they treat Chance coming back. If you get a chance, definitely see it. It's incredible.
And he was a person, Kevin Bacon part, he wasn't in the war. He didn't participate in it. So he took this up as his own being
Yeah.
part of it, you know.
When one falls, another brings him home. It's very, very true.
Mhm.
If you get a chance, please watch this.
Oh, we already did that one.
Mhm.
So that's all of them. Anybody got questions? I can go back and we can.
What'd you guys think of this?
Thumbs
That's
up.
very cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I got
Very-
some neat notes on what to look up and how to focus on a painting.
Would you join us for another one that is on a different subject?
Definitely.
Absolutely,
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
As long as my wife can help me.
definitely would, yes. Thank you for putting
Interesting.
this together.
Yes. this was
Yes, thank
Oh.
you.
a
We
lot of
got to
work from
thank
you guys.
Susan K. Black Foundation for supporting us and wanting to do something different that nobody else does. And so
Will
again,
do.
this is all because of SKB.
Thanks.
Good job, Susie and Stephen.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
very much.
A lot of work
Yeah.
and thanks.
Stephen, you're
Thanks,
still
Tim,
hunting
if you're still there.
Indeed, thanks for inviting me. And I didn't want to interrupt the flow when you were giving your presentation, but I'm from Euclid, Ohio, which is right outside of Cleveland. And of course, we've got Cleveland Museum of Arts. And to me, one of the really missed opportunities, I would go further, is that when Norman Rockwell passed away, Cleveland Museum of Art had a chance to buy his entire life's work. And they
Wow.
passed it up because it was apparently not fine art as being illustrations. And I'm going like, what a terrible mistake on their part. And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and to me, I was in a focus group once, and it was the commercial for an oil change company, and it's one of what you thought. They showed the storyboard, and my comment was, I'd rather see the storyboard than the video that they put together based on it, because it was just more interesting. I mean, anybody can see a picture of a car rolling into a service station, but when you look at the storyboard, well, there's more. You're developing your own story around it, and it's like, I don't know why people don't still use traditional artists and traditional things, even though you do have modern equipment. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life, but I use Photoshop and I do computer graphics, and I've been collaborating with AIs recently. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Good.
And to me, if it works, even if it's an illustration or 100-year-old technique, it's like it's got just as much legitimacy as modern technology. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thanks for listening.
I agree.
That was awesome.
And I don't think illustration, I think illustration is fine art. I think whoever says it's not really is missing the point on all of this. I think in a lot of cases, the illustrators are better artists than.
Oh, I totally agree with that, because I can't draw a stick figure to save my life.
Well, how do they define the difference between a fine artist and an illustrator? Because I think of, like you said, Norman Rockwell, N.C. Wyeth. It's like, how are they not fine artists?
They are.
I think the big difference that we'd always try to define it is that illustration was always used as a sales tool. It's
Commercial.
yeah, it's a commercial
It's a
tool.
commercial thing,
Where
right?
this Indian, now you could take these Indians over here and you could do a beer commercial with this or something. Now it's not good. The Indians shouldn't be drinking beer, but I mean, you could do a shoe commercial by taking that. As soon as you take that and put it into a commercial format, it becomes an illustration.
Right. Right.
So
And when
there
you-
really
you-
is no dividing line.
Yeah.
Bateman always had a problem with that,
Yeah.
getting his stuff in museums, because they always, they felt like his stuff was illustrations and not paintings, especially the wildlife art. That's the real evil part.
Right.
And to me, just creating an image out of pencil and paper and watercolor and oil and everything, that's magic.
Mhm.
It is. It
Really.
is.
Doesn't matter
Absolutely.
if it's doesn't matter if it's Norman Rockwell or Van Gogh. It's magical to me. So
Exactly. That's a very good point. And that's the tagline that I use in my ads. Owning a piece of Siri Lester is like owning a piece of magic. So it's that's a good point. Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I just want to comment that commercial art is often, I think, more difficult than what we would call fine art, because it has to serve a purpose and it has to sell the product. And when you look at these posters, they actually look like the people. You can tell that's Clark Gable. You can tell they are who they are. These artists are incredible.
Yeah.
You know, that they can do what they do and sell it. It's a shame that there's this conflict between fine art and commercial art, because these people are incredible.
They are.
You think of, it's thinking about that, you think that, okay, you made a horrible poster, that's why the movie failed, even though it was a great movie. Because your artwork sucked. That's a lot of pressure to think about.
A lot of
I mean,
pressure.
good God.
Sometimes the posters are better than the movies.
Movie,
Yeah.
yeah.
It better
Definitely.
be.
It's like, I got ripped off. This was supposed to be a good movie.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put this together. And so a lot of these guys have picked, guys that I knew. And, as an illustrator that started that way, I started as an illustrator and, I was always wanting to be a movie poster guy, it's kind of a goal. I'm just a t-shirt guy now.
No, you still could be. You still could be. Let's call up Spielberg tomorrow and.
Nah, I don't take enough photographs.
Well, good. Well, I think we'll be doing more of these Let's Talk Art, or actually we call it What Makes This Good Art. That's the title of this program. So I think we'll be doing more of these.
It was really fun. Thank you.
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for
Nice
inviting.
to see everyone.
Mhm.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Appreciate the